So initially, exploring Battle Network and the Star Force games in a review setting really should have been pretty much over and done with. I wasn't even really going to do Star Force until I eventually convinced myself that emulating them was fine, just so long as, I actually owned the main game. But in terms of Battle Network 1, I didn't really feel like I had to go back and play that, since I felt like 2 was kind of just like the perfect basis, so to speak, and I knew bits and pieces of information about Battle Network 1 that made me think that there probably wasn't really any major need to go back to it. But then, I played the Star Force games and really enjoyed the story that it had to present there, and I come to find out that there's a Japanese exclusive port of Battle Network 1 called Operate Shooting Star that has some small semblance of having Star Force put into the game for whatever reason. And because I like Star Force so much, I had to know what was going on between just two really fantastic series for the most part. And since it is Japanese exclusive, it does kind of work around my mental limitations that I have for something like this, since there's no other way for me to play it because it's Japanese exclusive unless I learned Japanese, which I'm not really going to do overnight. So anyways, it works in that sense, so I decided to give it a shot. So let's find out what actually happens at the beginning of the Battle Network series for real this time with Mega Man Battle Network Operate Shooting Star. So you star as Lan, a 10-year-old boy alongside his NetNavi Mega Man. In an alternate continuity to the regular Mega Man games, the development of technology went into the internet and linking all forms of tech to it. TVs, cars, even ovens are all linked to the net to some degree. In order to utilize these devices, special AI programs called NetNavis were developed for the general public to use, housed inside special devices called PETs, essentially smartphones. Those alone are the cooler forms of technology, but that's besides the point. Due to the higher level of technology and wider range the internet is needed to operate these varied machines, viruses run rampant all the time and can cause items to malfunction, sometimes in minor ways, but a lot of times also in bigger ways. Since police or even just general scientists can't be around for every minor problem that arises, PETs are equipped with special reciprocals that can accept temporary digital augments for NetNavis to use, called battle chips. They come in a variety of weapons ranging from cannons, bombs, swords, and many more, and can be used to combat viruses to fix problems around the net. Life seems pretty good for Lan and Mega Man, other than having to try and wake up for school on time. But recently, cyber attacks from a group known as World 3 have been on the rise, all orchestrated by the nefarious Dr. Wily. Lan and Mega Man eventually get caught up in the mess as they do what they can to avoid what World 3 dubs as the endgame. Now, I bring all this up about setting up the lore and such for a few reasons. Firstly, I know I've already set up the world before in my Battle Network 3 review, the first game I covered in the series, but I feel like there's going to be someone out there who's going to be like, I don't understand, so it's just to be safe. Second, more importantly, I kind of had some expectations when it came to the first game of the series and how it was going to present its world, but a lot of what I just described was knowledge that I had pieced together from the other games in the series for the most part. This game itself does a pretty iffy job at setting up the world, and I can't help but knock a few points for just expecting every person ever to just know what's going on going straight into this brand new universe. Robots are easy to understand. Fighting robots is even easier. Metal hunks that can do cool stuff. Anything involving the internet is some high-tech coding wizardry that needs more explaining than simply, isn't it obvious? I know some arguments are, it's a kid's game and all, but I am of a firm belief that kids game or no, unless it's specifically for toddlers or adult-restricted gaming on the other end of the spectrum, I think games should still try to establish their gameplay, world, and characters in a way that can be good for both adults and kids to get absorbed into, even if it's simplistic like OG Mega Man. But considering the depth to how the world works in Battle Network, maybe not starting us out in mid-conflict with World 3 in the very first game of a technically RPG would have been a good thing. The game needed a better explanation for its first adventure, essentially. Now, I can't say much for the graphics either. It would be the same art style that Battle Network 2 and 3 would use, and there's some positives there, comparatively speaking. Larger sprites make for better character detail. I still think the later Star Force games handled the cross between the different art styles better, but this is fine if it is a little muddied in its color. I was a little upset in regards to the port, though, I guess, because originally I thought it was a straight remake using newer sprites for the older games, but except for the prologue cutscene explaining why Geo from the Star Force game is involved here, it's just a straight port graphically. The bottom screen is just a glorified wallpaper when in the real world, and a newly added map that's always there in the net, so that's one little bonus, I guess. But my god, the internet! Port or no port, the internet is an absolute eyesore. Other than scenario dungeons, the base internet as a whole is this stock ugly peach colored background everywhere you go. Do you know where I am here? How about here? How about this one? Did you know this one's the undernet? Yeah, the place you dread to tread in the other games. A spot where no normal Navi can travel to. It's just like any other spot in the net. On top of just looking bland, the layout in general is just wonky. In later games, comp spaces are locked behind blocks that you can eventually get keys for from the owners to travel to and from the area, as a means of faster traveling if you know where to go. But here, these panels are just there, and you can step on them all pretty much, but if you don't have the key, you're kicked out. That alone is kind of annoying, but what makes the whole thing downright archaic is the size of the warp panels. These things are huge. You'll just try running by, accidentally run into the trigger space, and whoop, now you're somewhere else, or reading unwanted dialogue. But you also kind of need to do that sometimes, because the only way to unlock the connecting warp panel between the net and the specific comp space is by interacting with it from the net. If you try to go in direct from the computer to reach the net without doing that, the warp panel won't even be there. Ugh. So glad they fixed this for later games. This system's just bad. Oh dear. Okay. Can't let something so petty just work me up so bad. Not yet. So, in terms of other things with the game runs at absolute breakneck pace, like I said. Other games in the series had at least similar starts, but this one really is literally jumping from one scenario straight into the next, with almost no segue. I feel like it's sort of an attempt to mimic the briskness of OG Mega Man in a sense, being less an RPG and more of a stage-based scenario game, sort of akin to like Elden Ring's predecessor, Dark Souls. There, I said the magic word. Will YouTube help me now? I guess as I write this out, there could be merit to how the scenario works here, but as I said, when talking about the plot in general, a little downtime wouldn't have hurt, and I feel most other games in the series embrace its genre a bit better. Is there anything positive here? Yes, but not yet. Gameplay is basically Battle Network 2, except without styles, period. So that means power-ups to improve Mega Man's capabilities in battle, and using chips of varying weapons and abilities to dispatch your foe. You can select from a list of 5 chips at the start of a fight, and you can only pick one at a time unless the chips share a letter or a similar type of chip. And then you fight on a 3x6 grid using said chips until the custom gauge fills, when you can pick more chips again and then repeat. A few unique things of note, however, for this game specifically. Program advances have been around all this time, being done by grouping up a specific set of chips together in one go, forming into one unique attack. But my god, are they bad in this game, at least a few that I tried. They act similarly to 2 and 3, merging the chips together, then putting you in an invisible state while you can just fire the special weapon infinitely for a short period of time. But when using them against bosses, the one type of foe that usually benefits the most from program advances, the enemy invuln period makes it so you might get like 2 hits of the program advance off before it wears off, meaning that it's sort of a net negative in terms of potential damage output for most program advances, like the Z-Cannon, for example, where you need 3 chips to do 40 points of damage, except that that's 3 chips doing 40 instead of only getting 2 attacks of 40 with a program advance. The only positive here is the instant invisibility while doing it, securing the damage at least, but that can be worked around by good play or by just using your own invisible chips. Next, you need a charge point with a power-up to even use charge shots, which blows again. It was also in Battle Network 2. But Mega Man can actually achieve a second level of charge, doubling the damage from a tier 1 charge shot, which is pretty neat. But what's with this damage output? Instead of charge shot being times 5 the damage, it's by times 8. I mean, it's stronger, it's just a weird variable, I don't know. And alongside that, yeah, that's a full health bar after taking damage. You heal after every fight. Completely neuters the game's strategy and planning ability since there's just none to be had. And then, yeah, you run through some dungeons. They're par for the course, I guess, so to speak. And, fight some navies, and then you save the world for the first time, I guess, canonically. But, yeah, there's just not really special, so to speak, when it comes to trying to talk about this one, when I've kind of already gone at length about pretty much every bits and pieces of the mechanics in like every other review that I've done for the Battle Network games and even for Star Force to an extent. The secondary charge is kind of neat and is exclusive to this, but it's not really gameplay defining, Something I didn't really mention was just the enemy designs, and the layout can be just downright frustrating to try and dodge if you even can at all. This feels like there's some points in time where you could just always have to take damage, which kind of excuses the always healing after every battle thing, but it's still pretty dumb. But exclusive to Operate Shooting Star, there is kind of something to remedy that. So like I said earlier, Geo is in the game as a bonus scenario, traveling through time to save Sonia from Clockman, but the scenario plays out early as a misunderstanding from Lan and Mega Man, so they go and try to fight Geo to save Roll, whom is accused of kidnapping her. I knew about the boss fight with Star Force Mega Man just from like the odd video on it, but what I didn't know was more interesting. After the fight, you get to travel into Clockman's domain, but EXE is almost immediately captured. Geo then comes along and offers his assistance to Lan to help save EXE, as well as Roll and Sonia. And then, yeah, you can play as Star Force Mega Man in a Battle Network scenario with all the benefits from the Star Force games. God damn it, this is so cool. Geo's got his rapid fire buster along with a fairly fast charging charge shot, with the downside compared to EXE being less damage and no second charge, but yeah. Pressing Y will have Geo put up a shield, which will negate a lot of damage, fixing the problem I had with enemy types from earlier. And he's got his lock-on ability. Matching an enemy in the same lane as you will have you dash in and attack, perfect for melee weapons. This downright saved my Battle Network 1 experience, in all honesty. Geo just feels perfect to use and really helps rebalance the archaic enemy designs. His busts are slightly weaker, but to experience Star Force's gameplay in a Battle Network setting is exactly what I wanted to experience ever since I played the Star Force games. In an overall better game, this may just hold its own against the other gameplay styles in the Battle Network series with Styles, Crosses, and Souls, but it's not. Battle Network 1 is just too poorly designed for its own good, and without Geo, it makes the OG game just downright bad. I'm glad I didn't start with this game first in the series, because I may have not tried the others after it. And that's basically it. Yeah, Battle Network 1's not very good. The dungeons are not the best around, and it's really annoying that many of them force you out of the dungeon to go and do something in the real world, but then makes you have to go and retread the dungeon all over again, and that was really annoying. Lan and Mega Man's character aren't really that well defined since it is the first game in the series, ignoring the fact that they're not all that interesting to begin with. I think the only interesting thing is, spoilers, they're brothers to some degree. The types of chips you can acquire is pretty low, and like I said before, program advances are next to useless, so it's not even fun to try and collect. Just a nice variety to set up your folder in any way you want. It just doesn't really work. there's no styles, there's no souls, so that's not really that interesting. So the only thing harkening back to OG Mega Man in that sense is just the Navis themselves, which is whatever. I said in my Battle Network 2 review that Battle Network 2 was like the proof of concept. You know, like it's fleshed out. It just needed a bit of fine tuning before we finally got to 3, where the concept of Battle Network has been fully realized. Battle Network 1 is more like the storyboard. Like, it's first day on the job, you sip your first cup of coffee, and you're just plucking ideas onto a board just to figure out what to do with this whole thing. It just does not feel finished, does not feel complete. The only thing, like I said, that made it feel uniquely awesome was Geo, and that's just from my own personal feelings towards the Star Force games themselves, and it's got nothing to do with the Battle Network 1 interpretation of the game. So, yeah, I'm glad I did not start with this one first, because I would never have touched any other game in the series if I had. But anywho, thank you all so much for watching. Like what you saw, you can click right out there to check out some other videos that I've done, or if you really feel like it, you can click right up there to subscribe. And also, if you feel like it, I'll leave my links down below for like my Twitter and my Twitch. I know I don't do a whole lot with either one. I'm trying, and I'll leave updates for when I'm doing stuff, at least with Twitch, so to speak. So if you want to follow me there too, that'd be pretty cool. We can hang out sometime and shoot the shit. But anywho, thank you all so much for watching. Now, next time, I'll see you all later.